Okay, we got through the gate using the special number they gave us that I have covered up right now. Our plane that we're using is the 172 RG Cutlass. I have to look up and see what year it is here. First thing you want to do is a general look over of the aircraft. Make sure nothing's been hit while overnight. And the guy took off without saying anything, which of course would never happen. Of course not. But we're just going to look it over anyway. Yes, because we don't believe anything. So we see it. You've got the retractable gear, the door in the front. It's got the variable pitch prop. And it's got some navigation antennas on the bottom there, probably a few radios. And one thing I look for is the cotter pins on the wheels. I've seen the guys forget those sometimes, which is okay for landing once. But if you want to do it more than that, but that's what I do. I do a general look over of the thing, and of course I have my assistant, my lovely assistant, Joselina, here to help me out. But that's what we're looking for, is dents. You know, something where a fuel truck or somebody hit it, didn't say nothing, you know. And it looks in pretty good shape here. So, now we'll go ahead and do a little bit more investigation here. See how now the rest of the things look. Go ahead and open the door up.
Don't push me while you're at it.
As you can see on this door here, it doesn't line up very well. Usually what that means is this thing has landed very hard and the airplane has tweaked the thing. But usually that's normal for these airplanes with these air times on them. And it does shut very tightly. Okay. So same thing here. First you want to look for is see if anybody left an expensive radio in here for you for free, or some headsets. Sometimes they leave their headsets. Yeah, and they become yours until somebody cleans them. And of course this is the typical Cessna seat here, which has these pins in here. Now these pins that are there have a tendency to move on you. And all sorts of legal action here, as you can see. You can set these things up to where that's just perfect, but it's still loose. Of course, it's only loose when you flare and down until you get it to lock. So every time before takeoff, make sure these seats are completely locked.
And make sure you look up for dents too.
Yep.
In case they've been crashed and you think they might be crashed again, or have like a bad engine.
Yep. Now, as you can see inside here, we've got variable pitch prop, which is the blue handle.
Okay, what's
You've got the mixture, which is your red, always. Black is your throttle. Now you have cowl flaps down here too, which helps in cooling. We'll go ahead and take off here to middle. But after you fly the plane a while, every one will be a little different. You'll find your sweet spot that you like. We'll go ahead and remove the dust lock. This is for parking. We'll put that always in the back here so nobody fights after it or nothing. Seat's all the way back so we can get in.
Can I get in?
Now down below here is your pump for your gear extension. If something goes wrong with the electrical system, you can pump the gear down manually like this. And we're going to go ahead and put a fuel on both also. It's just best for takeoff and landing and not forgetting. And I've done that too. Take the parking brake and leave that thing on. Yeah, I'll open your side. Okay. Now when we turn on the electrical system,
How do I get on?
don't get in yet. It's going to be a while.
Yeah, I want to.
Okay, when we first fire it up, what we want to look for is the pilot's worst nightmare, which is this meter right here. Yeah, I'll go around side and I'll show you that. But it doesn't matter if you got gas, doesn't matter, you know, the flight controls work. The runaway Hobbs meter is a pilot's worst nightmare. You can get a shot of it there. We got to read it.
It says 47131 and 110.
4713.
And it says a narrow with 110.
We'll see now they're giving us with a 0. So they're charging us 1/10 already. And we even haven't done anything, so we're going to have to record that. And of course, there's nothing written down on our paper here either. Well, here it is, attack time 5074.8, which is on our tack the same thing. So we're going to go ahead and fire up the master switch. We don't really have to hit the alternator. One side is your battery and one side is your alternator. No, all it's going to do is turn on the electrical system. Of course, we want your avionics master off. That's right here, avionics master is off at the same time. And we're going to do another thing too, is we're going to check the beacon light, which has to be on anytime the engine's running. So the switch is already on, as you can see down there. So we're going to hit that. And you can see we get gear light indications. Go down to the bottom. Now another indication is your amp meter is blinking right there, which usually means your beacon is working too, but we're going to check that right now too. And you can see up there we got the light going on and off, on and off. Okay. Yep. So that's working. So anytime a thing's fired up, you've got indication there. Okay. So the flaps are down, and as you can see, the Hobbs meter is not running. It's still at 0.1 before we even started out. And that's basically what you want during the check for your electrical system when you first turn it on. Okay. Now they give you this checklist here to look at. Well, it's more for just looking at. It's a guide telling you basic information on what you need, what not to do, what to do, of course.
Do not crash the plane, obviously.
But in a high wind condition,
which I don't think we have.
Which we don't have, but if we were in a high wind condition, I would leave the cables connected to the plane until the last minute. Because this thing will move since the emergency is off. Since we're in a light wind condition, we can go ahead and pull the cables down, pick them off. This is the left side. Use a half granny is what they're using there. We'll make sure all of the locks are, all of that stuff. Wouldn't be the first time somebody tried to take off, and the tail here especially was still there. Now, next thing you need to go flying is usually some type of control so it does what you want it to do. So first you want to do your up and down, which is controlled by this device here. Oh, and it's got some dings on there too. Look at that. You can see that's got some dings. Probably straighten that thing out here. I don't think it's going to hurt the flight characteristics too much, but I'm glad I'm recording this before I take it out so I don't get billed for all of this. Now, of course, this thing's going to go up and down, and you want to grab it here. You don't want to grab it by this thing. Grab it by this part here. And you can see inside how the thing goes up and down on the controls. So that one looks like it's connected, and it's going to work for us. That's one of the controls. That makes you go up and down. This will make you go up, because it'll push the tail down, and that one will make the tail go down. Pretty basic. And ever since I was an airplane guy, looks like what you've got up here too, if you look real close, there's some hail damage on this surface. This thing has hit some hail.
How do you know?
You can tell by these little dimples inside of it if you can look really close. So this one has been around, is what it's used to, you know. But of course you want to check these controls too. As this one goes down, it's going to push the wing up, and the other wing is hooked up backwards. It's going to go down. So this is what you use when you want to make a turn. You're going to move one wing one way and one wing the other way. And you can see inside how it's hooked to the controls. You want to make a right turn? This one's up and the other one's down. And the opposite is true at that time. So these are important controls to keep you flying where you want to go. Of course, here's your gear that you have. You want to make sure there's no flat spots on it. I can't say that I've never had a flat spot or made a flat spot. I think I made a flat spot once. Hitting the brakes a little aggressively usually does it. There's nothing falling out of it, right? And then here you have your flaps. Flaps are used to increase your descent on landing. And it also makes you fly a little bit slower. Of course, there's the neighbors in the caravan over there. Island hoppers. He could probably go in and do some trolling up at the, I think Roosevelt's got a landing spot up there. And he's checking this flight stuff out. I got one guy taking off. That's control you have. There's the rudder. This thing will make it turn left and right. Yeah. But this thing is also connected to your nose gear. So when you're on the ground, you can guide you around, but on the ground, up in the air, it'll take this axis and tilt the tail to the left or to the right. So you really have a lot of control on these things. But you want to make sure that all these connections are all secure, the bolts are in, there's nothing falling out, there's nothing that's going to hit and bind while you're flying. You want to make sure all these flight controls are up and down and ready to roll. Flight controls are important. There are ways to compensate for flight controls that aren't working right. Your flaps are done. Okay. And then another thing that they have these weights in here. These things are weighted, and here's a weight right here. This weight is this long inside this aileron. And if that thing falls or gets bound in there, no fun. I've had birds climb in them, and they like to leave their own little nests. What? Yeah, they're going to when I move these controls here. Right? See? Left and right and everything. Okay. This is your vent for your gas tank. So, boy, if this thing gets plugged, it just, it's hard for the fuel to get to the carburetor then. It's like it's in a Coke bottle. And it needs some kind of ventilation. Sometimes it'll vent a little bit through the gas caps. Your pitot tube is where your air comes in and tells the speedometer in there how much air is coming across. It doesn't tell you how fast you're going on the ground. You could be in a 100-mile-an-hour wind and it'll register in there. even though your ground speed is, you're tied down. So this is only going to tell you your speed of the air that's hitting that thing. That's all it tells you. And what they do is they use a differential. They use the differential from this pressure to this pressure here, which is your, just whatever it is outside, to tell how fast you're going. So another thing you want to do is make sure there's no cracks in here on the blade. And none on the blade. There's no beehives. I had a beehive one time. Boy, they're hard to get rid of once they get in there. They like it in there. They really do. And of course, number one thing you always look when you're in a motorized aircraft is the oil. Oil is important for the engine to run. No oil, no engine run. It doesn't like to do that. And we're at 8 quarts, it looks like. Let's see how far down it goes. It goes to 6. So we're above 6. That's okay for just a little small trip. If you're in the summertime and it's hot, you're going to want to top it off. You're going long spaces. Now this one here too has a petcock here. And we just want a little bit of gas to fall out. When it does, you can see there's no beads on it. If there's beads, then you know there's water, and then we'd have to still soak some more out. Of course, what we're doing is completely against any federal EPA regulations. And we can be cited millions for destroying our mother. But we can drive the plane. That's okay. So you've got to do something wrong. Well, yeah, I guess, yeah, this is to be the time for any, what you might say, legal stuff here. This is not to be construed with any professional flight instruction that you might need as a pilot. You are responsible for any and all information needed for the safe execution of that flight. That's kind of a catch-all they got. It's one of the regulations. You can get them in the FAR somewhere and look them up and stuff. Sure enough, they're there. So as long as we're going on gas, flight controls is first. You don't want to go any place you ain't got no control. And then second thing, you don't want to go nowhere without no motor. No motor is no fun. You don't go very far. So now we've got a thing here to check the fuel, which you want to look for and make sure it's got the right color, which is blue, which is okay. That's 100 low lead. And make sure there's nothing in the bottom of it, which is water. Usually it sinks to the bottom, water does, which it looks pretty clean right there. And of course, we can dump it right back in the tank if it's clean. That's all right. We'll keep our mother fine. Or there's a dumping thing over on the other side. But you know, we have to go and check the tanks physically anyway, because I never believe what the meter says. You never believe what the meter says. Always look in there and say, oh, it's full. That's a better way than a meter. So you're going to have to stand back a little bit, Hosni, and I have to jump up here, and I'll take a look at the same time, and I'll dump the old stuff in. We'll do two things at the same time. Pick that butt up here. We're going to pour this one back. We're going to stick our finger in there. You can see it's wet. It's wet in there. So it's got fuel in there. We got plenty. There's fuel, and then there's extra fuel for Mama, they call it. I always have extra fuel for Mama. So check the bottom sump. Check the right tank sump. Another thing I like to do too is go ahead and shake the wings. Shaking the wings will bring any type of moisture down to the bottom part. I haven't had any rain lately. And it doesn't matter, rain or anything. We'll take a look. Same thing. For blue, no water, it's clean. And we get to check the tank up at the same time. So we know we've got oil and gas, so that's two big things on a motor, on an airplane. Gas and oil. Dump that stuff back in there. Finger in. Ooh, yeah. You got fuel. Now make sure the caps are on both sides. Maybe the first time that happened, those things weren't on right. So that is our basic thing. But, you know what? We're still going to go through the checklist anyway. It's easy to miss stuff. And it's nice to know that anything important has already been taken care of. So let's see. Let's see if we missed anything. We've got the documents in the airplane. The emergency checklist, which there was one in there. Well, let's take a look for the emergency checklist. And we'll do the documents. They're all inside this thing on the side here. Here's your documents, your registration and thing, and here's your emergency checklist. So that's all there. Next thing we know is the control wheel lock. That's what we pulled out when we first came in. Ignition was off. The gear handle was in the stove, which is that red one. The cowl flaps were open. Cowl flaps are down here. And these things are connected to the outside, these things here near the motor. So open would let it breathe and cool down, and closed would keep the engine warmed up. Avionics master on, interior lights off, flaps down, fuel quantity, gauge check, quantity, which I don't care. We really don't care about this gauge, whatever the gauge. We know it's got full tanks. Fuel selector goes on both. The beacon is working. Your switch goes off. Alternate static source valve is off. Usually alternate static sources, when something freezes up outside, you use it here once in a while, and it's right here. That knob is. Make sure it's pushed in. Otherwise, some of your stuff, instruments ain't going to read right. Baggage door is done. Control surfaces, check for modem and security, which we did. Your tie downs are all disconnected, right? Yeah, make sure the baggage door is closed and latched. The fuel tank sump we checked. The flaps and ailerons. The wingtips, check. I don't know if there's much to check on the wingtips. We got some cracking and some drill stopping, and it doesn't look too bad. The light's not falling out. Main gear tire, we've already looked at that. Another wingtip here. The light's not falling out. It hasn't been hit. That's the biggest thing. Okay, main gear tire, we checked that. Wing tire down. Wing tie down, yeah. Disconnected. Main gear tire, check for inflation. Fuel quantities, we looked at those. Engine oil level, we looked at that. We did the fuel strainer. The exhaust stack. I don't know what you can do. You can kind of wiggle and make sure the thing's not falling off. That's about all you can do. Propeller and spinner, we checked. This alternator belt, if you look on this plane here, you can't see it. I don't know why it's on the checklist. You check something, it's impossible to see. But they do that sometimes. So we'll add and do, you know, what's necessary. Okay, the nose gear, tire, and strut and doors, which is all the front stuff here. If you look, there should be a button, a wire hooked up to the button down there, which it is right there. Static source, which is this one too. There's one on both sides. Check for blockage. And we're going to check the visual filler cap. We did that. Main gear tire. The pitot tube, which we look for blockage there. The wing tie down is done. Stall warning horn. We can check that by turning on the electricity and moving this little lever right here. Fuel tank vent. We checked that. Wing leading edge. No for damage. Wingtip checked. Aileron and flaps we looked at. Fuel tank sump. So all we're missing is this thing here. This is the stall warning. Oh, Selena. Here, look. Dang it, there goes the neighborhood. This is the stall warning horn here. Anytime you hear this buzzer going off, you push the nose down. That's all you got to remember to flying. So try push it up, that lever. Hear that noise? Anytime you hear that noise, you push it forward. Okay, that's good. You can look at the indicator. The indicator show gas in there, so we've got all that done. Okay, final check. Your tie downs are disconnected. Flaps are down and symmetrical. Ailerons, one up, one down, as there are. Fuel tanks capped and secure. Surrounding area is clear of FOD and fluid leaks. Fly safe and enjoy your flight. That's all you got to do for the pre-checkout.
So this is like a long time since I've flown with my dad, so I might be scared, okay?